Can you show everyone your nails? Did you ask to see your
Mine?
nails?
Oh,
No,
you didn't. But yes, here are my nails. It's Music Notes. It's a Pink Floyd song called "Shine On, You Crazy Diamond." It's one of my favorite songs.
How do you work with those nails, Boz?
Are you kidding? I've been doing nail things for like 25 years. So now if I don't have them, I feel like I have stumps.
I am really excited to welcome my guest to Molner's table, the global CMO of Netflix. How does that sound?
I mean,
Bozoma Saint John, welcome.
Thank you, Molner.
This is a big get for Molner's table because I believe this is your first official interview since the announcement of
that. Yes,
as global CMO. So I'm going to say this is breaking news.
This is definitely breaking news. This is breaking all kind of protocol, I'm sure, but anything for you, Molner. I mean, seriously, you're one of my faves.
Now, nice. I know you're calling in on vacation too, because you're so sweet. You're going to tell us where you are, or is this double secret?
No, I'm fine with that because you know what? That's another one of my my mantras, and I hope that people take it seriously, especially in corporate. You know, we find that people jump from place to place and don't really take a lot of time for themselves. And it's so important. You're right that I want to do a great job at Netflix, a phenomenal job. But I can only do that if I come in fresh.
All right, now I'm going to steal a page from Katie's book and do Bozoma Saint John in 60 seconds. LA or New York?
LA.
Sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
A recent TV series that you binged watched?
You know what? Probably Tiger King.
What's your most important source of daily news?
Twitter.
What's the one thing you can't leave home without?
My lipstick.
Wine, tequila, or vodka?
Wine.
Your best subject in college?
English.
One last one. A superpower you wish you had?
Flying.
You got that power, Boz. How do you think about Netflix business broadly and the potential for this?
As a consumer, I would say that I find it to be a platform for escape. You know, a place where you go to not just be entertained, but to learn, to be inspired, you know, to find or answer your curiosities. You know, it's just a place for escape. And we all need that. You know, it doesn't matter if we're stuck in the time of COVID or we are all moving fast in our regular lives or in our normal pace. You know, you always need a place to go to just escape the rigors of life.
One achievement that you look at in your career and point to and say, you know, I'm particularly proud of this outcome or a decision I made, or maybe it was a recommendation that helped improve the culture of a company or the way they recruit or the way they treat their employees or pay scale.
Early on, one of my first wins, I feel like set the tone for how I go forward, you know, and how I've been going forward in life. And that actually happened at Spike Lee's agency. So I was working there at Spike DDB. I was an assistant to him for a number of years before I was promoted to be an assistant account executive. There is a difference between assistant and assistant account executive, okay? It doesn't sound like much, but it is. He was trying to win the Pepsi business to direct their commercials. And he asked around the office, there were just, you know, 4 or 5 of us actually working at the office at the time. And he asked what or who in pop culture we most admired or we thought was exciting. And at the time, you know, everybody was going around talking about like the person who was at the top of the charts or, you know, the best like sports athlete and all these big names. And I said it was Beyoncé. You know, now to give context, at the time, Beyoncé was coming out of Destiny's Child, okay? Girl group, obviously very successful girl group, but there isn't a good track record for solo artists coming out of girl groups. Like Diana Ross is like literally the only one, right? And so people panned her. Against all of those things, I told Spike, I said, I think Beyoncé is the most interesting person. You know, she's taking risks. Like she has a great voice. She has an awesome look. Like I think she's got something, you know? And literally it was like one of those moments where everyone in the office turns and looks at you and thinks like you're just the stupidest person on the planet. But he took me on my advice and he called her and talked to her. and she won the job. She became the face of Pepsi for that year. And not only that, in subsequent years, after I'd, of course, been hired by Pepsi myself, we did 4 more deals together, ending with the 2013 Super Bowl halftime show. And so for me, it was like that moment at 24 years old, Spike asking me my opinion, someone who I really respected, who had so many accolades already. And he took my thought and my advice and acted on it, and it ended up being successful. That solidified for me that it really didn't matter about your age or your experience, that if you went with your gut, you went with your taste and led with your insight, you would always win. And I have trusted that for the time since.
You're one of a very few number of Black executives at the C-level position at a giant publicly held company, or soon to be in that position.
Mm-hmm.
What's a piece of advice that you would offer to the leadership and the boards of those companies about what these companies have to be doing now to have a meaningful response in this moment?
I just have to pause and thank you for asking the question that way, because I can't tell you the number of times I've been asked what Black executives should do in order to move higher in the ecosystem, or what young Black people should do in order to get sort of the leg up. And it is a frustrating question put in that context, because to me, the issue is not the desire, the talent, the vision, the smarts of Black people who are trying to make it in corporate America. The issue is in the rooms that already exist. The people who are already in those seats, who are holding those seats for themselves and not for anybody else. And so I truly appreciate the way that you've asked that question, because it is upon the business leaders who currently occupy those rooms to make space, and not only make space, to be inclusive, because one of the interesting things about hiring that I have found, even in my seat and as I advise other colleagues, has always been, the assumption that if you like somebody, or you could get a coffee with somebody, that person is going to be your greatest colleague, right? Because let's say you have 2 resumes that sort of match up in terms of, experience and validity for the role. Usually it comes down to, in the interview process, who do I like better? Who do I get along with better? Well, the answer to that is pretty simple. It's the person. Yes, who's like me? Correct. It's like, that's why you get along with them better. Come on, hello. But how many times has that been said in corporate spaces? You know how many times I've heard that? Oh, I could get a beer with that guy. Oh, I could get coffee with that person. You know what? We would hang out outside of work. That's why I like them. So that's why I want to work with them, because they would be a better colleague to me. Well, that is not enough. Business leaders need to get uncomfortable. And so they need to stop hiring themselves.
I want to talk a little bit about Facebook and the boycott. Netflix, I think, is a Facebook advertiser, probably a large one. What's your position on this boycott?
Well, Molner, this probably won't surprise you that I have a different point of view. I think boycotts and protests are great for masses, right? For people who don't have power, who don't have a voice in the room, to band together and make a big movement. That is the weapon. Boycott, riots, those are like, that is the weapon of people who are voiceless. For big companies, you have a voice, a big one, huge voice. So why go silent? Why go silent? I think the responsibility is actually to make noise. Use the weight of the office that you hold to make change. Demand it. Be loud about it. And so it's not necessarily about just taking advertising dollars off of the table. If we really want to see change, then demand it.
What's the best advice you've received in your career?
I have probably benefited most from bad advice than from the good advice. There was one in particular, and actually that person will remain nameless to protect their identity. But that person told me that I should never wear red lipstick or red nail polish in the office because it would signal something that I didn't want to communicate. And I was very young at the time. but I internalized that as not to show up as myself. You know, because I really loved the bright, bold colors. It felt like armor. It was really demoralizing because it meant that don't show up in a bold way. You know, don't show up in a way that will cause attention. Today, I still walk into rooms and there is a visceral reaction. Still, people stop, turn, consider me before I even say one word. Right? There's all kinds of things already assigned to me. And, oh, God forbid I have a strong point of view or that my passion comes out of my hands because I gesture a lot. Then all of a sudden, all kinds of, assumptions are made. So I have benefited most from that piece of advice because I went in the complete opposite way.